Welcome to Whispers in the Dark. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and check out the amazing products in the description. Now enjoy the story.
I still can't sleep properly. Every noise outside makes me jump out of bed and check the windows. My friends think I'm becoming paranoid. My psychiatrist says it's post-traumatic stress, but I know what I saw that night in Dover. No one believes me, so I decided to record this statement. Maybe someone will take it seriously, maybe someone else has already seen what I saw. I'm a wildlife photographer. 6 months ago, I received a proposal to document the nocturnal fauna in the woodlands of Massachusetts for a nature magazine. The pay was good, and it would be a great addition to my portfolio. I accepted immediately. I did my research and chose Dover as my starting point. The town is small, surrounded by nature reserves and dense woods, perfect for photographing animals in their natural habitat. I arrived in Dover on a Wednesday afternoon. The town was exactly as I imagined, peaceful, with spaced-out houses and residents who waved to strangers. I rented a small cottage on the edge of the forest for 2 weeks. The landlord, an elderly gentleman named Henry, handed me the keys with a strange warning: don't venture too far after nightfall. These forests hold secrets. I laughed and thanked him for the advice, thinking it was just local superstition. Little did I know how seriously I should have taken those words. I spent the first 3 days exploring the area during the day, mapping out promising locations for my nighttime photography sessions. I found a small clearing about 2 miles from the cottage, near a stream. It was perfect. There were tracks of deer, foxes, and other animals nearby. I set up automatic cameras with motion sensors in several spots and decided that the next night I would start my work. On the 4th night, I set out around 10 p.m. The temperature had dropped sharply, and a thin fog hung over the forest floor. I took my equipment, professional camera, tripod, special lenses for night photography, flashlights, and a small first aid kit. I also carried pepper spray. You never know when you might encounter a more aggressive animal. The path to the clearing was more eerie at night, but I was focused on the job. I set up my gear, adjusted the camera on the tripod, and sat down on a fallen log to wait. The forest at night has its own sounds: the rustling of leaves, branches cracking, occasionally an owl hooting. Everything was normal. After 2 hours, I managed to photograph some small rodents and a fox. I decided to check the automatic cameras. The first one was intact, with the LED blinking indicating it had recorded movement. The second one too. When I got to the third, I realized something was wrong. The camera had been moved. Not ripped off or damaged, just turned to a different angle. I thought maybe some curious animal had bumped into it. I readjusted its position and checked the images. The first ones were normal, some animals passing by. But the last photo sent a chill down my spine. It was just a blur, a whitish smudge between the trees. It could have been anything: a branch, a reflection, maybe even an albino deer. But there was something about the shape that deeply unsettled me. It seemed to have a head that was too large for the slender body that was insinuated. I packed up the camera and continued my work, trying to ignore the unease that was growing. That's when I heard the first distinct crackle. It wasn't a natural forest sound, it was too rhythmic, like calculated footsteps. I pointed my flashlight in the direction, but I didn't see anything. I decided it was time to head back. I started to dismantle my equipment when I heard it again. Closer this time. I turned sharply and illuminated the trees. Nothing. But I had a strong feeling I was being watched. The way back was agonizing. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound was amplified by the growing fear. I arrived at the cottage breathless, locking the door and checking all the windows. I tried to convince myself it was just my overactive imagination, stimulated by the darkness and the stories Henry had hinted at. The next day, I reviewed the photos. Most were good, usable material. But when I got to that image from the automatic camera, something caught my eye. I zoomed in, adjusted the contrast. And there it was, 2 bright dots that looked like eyes. Orange eyes, reflecting the infrared light of the camera. I decided to ask the locals about strange animals in the area. At the town cafe, I casually mentioned that I had seen something unusual in the forest. The silence that followed was telling. An elderly lady at the next table finally spoke. "You saw the Dover demon, didn't you?" She told me about the sightings in 1977, when teenagers reported seeing a bipedal creature with a large head and orange eyes. The authorities dismissed it as a prank, but the reports persisted over the years. Always at night, always in the same forest area. I left the cafe more curious than scared. As a natural scientist, I didn't believe in mythical creatures. There had to be a logical explanation, maybe a sick animal, a rare case of mutation, or simply collective imagination transforming a common animal into a monster. That night, I decided to go back to the same location. This time, I took additional equipment, a more powerful night lens, better camera traps, and a small video camera. If there was something out there, I was going to document it. I arrived at the clearing earlier, before sunset. I set everything up meticulously, creating a perimeter of cameras that covered all angles. Night fell, and with it came that fog again, denser this time. For 2 hours, nothing happened. I started to relax, taking occasional photos of small animals that crossed the clearing. Wildlife photography is patient work, and I was used to long waits. That's when the leaves started to move strangely. There was no wind that night, the fog was perfectly still. But the leaves on the ground about 20 yards from me were rustling as if something was walking silently over them. I pointed my camera and started photographing frantically. Through the lens, I saw something that made me stop breathing. Between two trees, partially hidden, was a pale shape. At first it looked like a white branch, but then it moved. And I saw the eyes, two orange orbs that seemed to emit their own light. I lowered the camera, trembling, and saw the creature with my naked eyes. It was slender, with thin, long arms and legs, disproportionate to the rest of its body. But the most disturbing thing was the head, large, bulbous, with no discernible facial features besides those eyes. It had no fur, its skin looked smooth and gray in the dark. We stared at each other for seconds that felt like hours. I couldn't move. The creature tilted its head slightly, in an almost human gesture of curiosity. Then, slowly, it began to approach. Its gait was strange, fluid, but awkward, as if it was still learning to use those elongated limbs. It made no sound at all. Its fingers, if they were fingers, looked longer than normal, almost like thin tentacles. I recoiled instinctively, tripping over the tripod. My camera fell with a crash. The creature stopped, its head tilted to the other side. For a moment, I thought it would flee, startled by the noise. But it didn't flee. It continued approaching, now more quickly. I abandoned my equipment and ran. I ran like never before, stumbling over roots, scratching my face on low branches. I didn't look back, but I was sure I was being followed. I could hear rapid movements behind me, branches breaking. I reached the cottage and locked all the doors and windows. I grabbed my cell phone, but there was no signal, typical of that remote area. I spent the night awake, with a camping hatchet in my hands, watching every window, every shadow. In the early morning, I heard scratching on the roof. Soft, rhythmic. As if something was testing the structure, looking for an entrance. Then, absolute silence. When the sun rose, I cautiously went out to check the surroundings. There were no signs of intrusion or damage to the cottage. But when I looked at the path leading to the forest, I saw something that made me recoil back inside. Footprints. Not animal, not exactly human either. They were elongated, with marks that looked more like thin fingers than feet. I needed to retrieve my equipment, the proof was there. I waited until midday, when the sun was high, and returned to the clearing. My tripod was broken, the camera damaged, but the memory card was intact. The automatic cameras were gone. All of them. As if someone, or something, knew exactly what to look for. I left Dover that same day. I didn't say goodbye, didn't ask for a refund of the rent. I just drove as fast as I could to Boston, where I spent the night in a hotel before catching my flight back home to Oregon. Weeks later, I finally had the courage to check the memory card. Most of the photos were blurred by the movement when I dropped the camera. But one of them, the last one, clearly showed what I had seen. Those orange eyes, that disproportionate head, the thin limbs. The Dover demon. I sent the photo to a biologist friend, without explaining the context. He replied that the image was too blurry, but it was probably a montage or a light effect on some common animal. Of course, that's what he would say. It's what any rational person would say. The worst came 3 days later. I received a package with no sender. Inside the box were my automatic cameras, all intact. I turned one of them on and checked the images, all erased, except for the last one on each device. The same image on all of them, my cottage window, photographed from outside, while I slept the night before my encounter in the forest. That was 6 months ago. I've moved twice since then, changed my phone, email, everything. But I still feel like I'm being watched. Sometimes, I wake up in the middle of the night with the sensation of orange eyes watching me through the window. Last week, I found a strange footprint in the backyard. Elongated, with thin marks in place of toes. The same one I saw in Dover. I think it followed me. I think it's curious about me, just like I was curious about it. I don't know what the Dover demon wants with me. I don't know if it's hostile or just interested. I don't know if it's a predator or just a solitary creature, curious about the humans who invade its territory. What I do know is that it's getting bolder. The footprints are closer to the house every night. I installed security cameras, but every morning I find they've been deactivated overnight. As if it knows exactly what they are and how to neutralize them. Tonight, I saw a silhouette through the kitchen window. That bulbous head, those orange eyes. It didn't try to come in. It just stood there, watching, for almost an hour, before disappearing into the darkness. I'm recording this statement because I need someone to know what happened, what's happening. I don't think it's going to hurt me. If it wanted to, it would have done it already. I think it's studying. Learning. And I don't know if that's more or less frightening. If you live near Dover, Massachusetts, or any area of dense woodland, be careful at night. If you see orange eyes in the dark, don't run. Don't show fear. It senses it, somehow. And if you find my cameras or this statement, know that I'm probably not here anymore. Not in the way you imagine. I have a growing feeling that it didn't come to hurt me, but to take me. To where, I don't know. Maybe to meet others like it. I hear scratching on the roof now, as I record this. It's him. He's come to get me. And the strangest thing? I don't feel so much fear anymore. I feel curiosity. The same curiosity I saw in its eyes that night in the forest. Maybe that's what it always wanted to share with me.
We've reached the end of our story. What did you think? Leave a comment and share your thoughts. Don't forget to follow the channel, like the video, and check out the amazing products in the description. And don't miss the next video, you're going to love it.